Elon Musk just stepped off stage. I just watched this entire Beast interview live. I want to go through a few of the most important things I thought about that were discussed in this beast of an interview with Elon Musk that just took place here. Okay, he talks about Tesla, he talks about Cybertruck, he talks about autonomous vehicle opportunities. He obviously speaks about Jeff Bezos, OpenAI. Those are where a lot of my focus are going to be to react to. I just want to get straight in this. Appreciate everybody joining me. Thank you for being subscribed. Obviously, usually I put all my reaction videos on the reaction channel, but this is too big. Like Elon Musk just did this interview. This is like too big to put just on the reaction channel. This has to go on Big Dog. So appreciate y'all being here. Much love as always. And let's jump into this.
Nothing any of my companies have done has been to stifle competition. In fact, we've done the opposite. So at Tesla, we have open sourced our patents. Anyone can use our patents for free. How many companies do you know who've done that? Can you name one? I can't. At SpaceX, we don't use patents. So, I mean, so once in a while we'll file a patent just so some patent troll doesn't cause trouble. But we're not stopping any. We've done nothing anti-competitive. We've done nothing to stop our
I'm not suggesting you at all.
No, I just want to clarify for the audience because some companies have done anti-competitive things. I think the strange thing or the unusual thing about SpaceX and Tesla is that we've done things that have helped our competition. So at Tesla, we have made our supercharger system open access. We've made our charger technology available for free to the other manufacturers.
About to make a big statement.
The reason
No walled garden. We could have put a wall up, but instead we invited them in.
The reason I mention this, though, is because you've had this success in the...
Well, maybe that wasn't the point. There's a point in this interview where he basically says the supercharging business, and this is pretty big information, I thought. He said the supercharging business, if it was a standalone company, would be a S&P 500 type company. Like, that's a pretty big statement in itself.
Physics world. You now have these very difficult decisions that have huge impacts on the world that are not physical decisions at all. They're decisions of the mind. They're decisions that you and others have to make. And there's a question whether you should be making these decisions at all. And I think about it in the context of Starlink. Obviously, there was the report about how it's being used in Ukraine and the Russia war. There's questions.
The other product's better.
And I accept that. And maybe one day somebody else will create a better product.
Is it like...
So this part, they just kind of had a misunderstanding of what they were discussing. I guess you shouldn't say, like, Andrew was meaning one thing, Elon thought he was meaning something else.
How is it a bad thing to make better products than other companies?
Well, and I want to
wasn't really his
to
point,
the Starlink piece of it, though, because that has sort of a geopolitical ramification in terms of your power and how you think about that specific power, and then the power that the U.S. government might have either over you or not over you, the power the Chinese government might have over you or not over you, and how those things get used.
I mean, what are you suggesting?
I'm asking the question around this very idea of how these satellites are going to be used, whether you think that you should have control of them.
They never really can get on the same page here.
Let me pivot the conversation for a second.
I mean, certainly, my company's overseen by regulators, and while since SpaceX, Starlink, Tesla are overseen by cumulatively over 100 regulators, and actually more than that, a few hundred regulators, because we're in 55 countries.
It's crazy to think that.
If you sum up all the times that I had an argument with regulators, of hundreds of regulators over decades, it can sound really terrible, but they forgot to mention that there were 10 million regulations we complied with and only 5 that I disagreed with. But they listed the 5, and it sounds like, wow, this guy's a real maverick. I'm like, yeah, but what about the 10 million we complied with?
Do you, let me one related thing on this, the leverage of countries and things over you and regulators. X is this free speech platform. You do business in China, lots of business in China. That's an important part of your business, I imagine.
Well, it's not SpaceX.
How do you think about the leverage that the Chinese have over you? And do they have leverage over you? And how do you feel about, some people would say, is it hypocritical for you to be doing business in China, or frankly in other countries as it relates to X and other things that don't follow this free speech path that you have espoused?
The best that the X platform can do is adhere to the laws of any given country. Do you think there's something more we could do than that?
I think it would be very hard, but I just wonder, given the sort of strong philosophical approach that you've been vocal about, whether you say to yourself, maybe I shouldn't be doing business in that country.
Well, first of all, Starlink and SpaceX are no business in China whatsoever. Tesla has one of four vehicle factories in China, and China is, I don't know, a quarter of our market or something like that. So it's a quarter of the market of one company. The same is true, by the way, of all the other car companies. They also have something on that order of a quarter of their sales in China. So if that's a problem for Tesla, it's a problem for every car company.
So Elon Musk doesn't answer the question very well here. If I was in his shoes, what I would have said is I would have said something like, well, sure, we could pull out of China and not sell there, due to free speech. But then we could be potentially hurting the climate. Since Tesla entered China, there's been a huge boom in EVs, right? And Elon Musk believes EVs are a huge component of saving the environment, right? And as well as obviously Tesla's solar business as well, right? And so in getting off dirty fossil fuels. And so that's his view. And so I would have used that instead of this kind of skirting around like, well, the other guys sell in China, so why shouldn't we be able to sell in China? Because that didn't, no one that's playing on a higher level is going to really buy that answer there.
I mean, I think one has to be careful about not conflating the various companies, because I can only do things that are within the bounds of the law. I cannot do beyond that. My aspiration is to do as much good as possible and to be as productive as possible within the bounds of what is legal. More than that, I cannot do.
Let me ask you a political question. And I've been trying to square this one in my head for a long time.
Yeah.
In the last 2 or 3 years, you have moved...
Basically going to ask him why he doesn't like Biden.
...decidedly to the right, I think.
Have I?
Well, we can discuss this. I think that you have been espousing and promoting a number of Republican candidates and others. You've been very frustrated with the Biden administration over, I think, unions and feeling like they did not respect what you've created.
Well, I mean, without doing nothing to provoke the Biden administration, they held an electric vehicle summit at the White House and specifically refused to let Tesla attend. This was in the first 6 months of the administration.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's a bunch of freaking crap, like that's crazy. That would be like having a smartphone summit and not inviting Apple to it. Like, the president not inviting Apple. And it's like, you guys realize we sell like half the smartphones, right? And in Tesla's case, I mean, they sell more than half the actual EVs. Like that's crazy. So that's wild, man. Wild.
More electric cars than everyone else combined. Why are we not allowed? Why are you only letting Ford, GM, Chrysler, and UAW, and you're specifically disallowing us from the EV summit at the White House? We've done nothing to provoke them. Then Biden went on to add insult to injury and publicly said that GM was leading the electric car revolution. This was in the same quarter that Tesla made 300,000 electric cars and GM made 26. Does that seem fair to you?
So, but tell me this then. It doesn't seem fair. And I've asked repeatedly, you've probably seen me.
And by the way, I had a great relationship with Obama. So there was not a.
So, but then there's
I voted
this.
for Obama. I stood in line for 6 hours to shake Obama's hand. Okay.
So
man stood in line for 6 hours. That's a flex, right? That's a flex if you're Obama. You had Elon Musk waiting in line 6 hours just to shake your hand? Dang. Now that's a flex. Who's Elon Musk really waiting to meet for 6 hours? That's crazy. That's crazy.
Personal level. I can see it in your face. This hurt you personally.
And it hurt the company too. And it was an insult to Tesla has 140,000 employees. Okay, of the half of them are in the United States. Tesla has created more manufacturing jobs than everyone else combined.
So let me ask this then. You've devoted at least the last close to 20 years of your life, if not more, to the climate change.
So then he asked about Vivek, and he's like, well, you were, hanging around Vivek or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I disagree with him on kind of his views on climate and those sorts of things. And then they ask him, would you vote for Biden or not? And he's like, I don't think I would vote for him, but he's like, I might not vote against him. That's a tough decision, those sorts of things.
Or whatever. But it's pretty cheap, okay? It's low cost freedom.
I got a couple more questions for you. You're headed back to Texas after this to launch the Cybertruck.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big launch. But I wanted to ask you right now, more broadly, just about the car business and what you see actually happening. And specifically, the government put in place lots of policies, as you know, to try to encourage more EVs. And one of the things that's happened uniquely is you have now a lot of car companies saying, actually, this is too ambitious for us. These plans are too ambitious. 4,000 dealers, I don't know if you saw just yesterday, sent a letter to the White House saying, this has gone too far. You're going too far. You had this
anti-EV?
It was this is going too fast, too far, and that there's not enough demand. Underneath all this is this idea that...
So dealers sending that letter, let me be very clear. And I've heard a lot out of kind of people that, let's call it, are in the dealership business. From what I heard is automakers are shipping them these EVs. And what's happening is the EVs aren't freaking moving. Like, people don't want these EVs from these other traditional auto manufacturers. And so the auto manufacturers are sending them these EVs to dealerships. The dealerships don't want to sell them to begin with, right? Because at the end of the day, like, the dealership looks at this and they say, like, we're not going to have much maintenance on this, and that's a huge component of how we make money over time. We don't want to sell these EVs, and the customers don't want to buy the EVs. So why are we going to force it on them? We're not going to force it on them, right? And the dealers just aren't incentivized. So I can understand the dealers being mad at this whole entire situation, because ultimately the OEMs aren't producing a vehicle that makes everybody say, I got to go buy this EV. And people are like, why would I go buy, an EV of whatever kind from Ford or GM or whoever, when I could just buy an internal combustion engine vehicle and probably like it a lot more than whatever EV product they have, because maybe they haven't marketed properly. Maybe it's just not good enough product, right? It matters.
The American public
product matters.
Has not bought into they bought into it with your company, but they haven't bought into it broadly enough.
Well, I think if you make a compelling electric car, people will buy it, no question about it. Electric car sales in China are gigantic. That's by far the biggest category.
Right.
And I think that would be the case. It's
something that scares me with the EV market. This happened actually in the kind of vegan food movement, right? Which I was very involved with, and just huge disappointment in that industry. What happened ultimately, I think, in that movement was you had too many companies make bad products. As somebody that was tried all the different company products, there was too many bad products in the market. Too many restaurant chains selling poor product. There was a great restaurant here in Vegas called Chef Kenny's, Asian restaurant. Everything was plant-based. Their food was phenomenal. I said, man, if all the other companies made food this freaking good, like, vegan movement would be huge. But instead, a lot of it was garbage. The same thing could happen in the EV industry. If everybody else creates a garbage product and Tesla's the only one creating a great product in the EV space, it's gonna hurt EV adoption taking off over this next 5-10 years. You need lots of companies making great products, compelling products that make the consumer go out there and say, I want to buy this, I want to add this. If you have a bunch of companies that put out subpar products, and maybe, here's a little conspiracy theory, maybe, just maybe, the other OEMs want to put out not a great product. Because at the end of the day, their bread and butter is what? Selling internal combustion engines. So they want to slow down EV adoption as much as possible, if anything, because they know they're never going to beat Tesla at that. They know Tesla's going to win the EV war. So the game might be, let's slow down things as much as possible. Just a little conspiracy theory. Just a little conspiracy theory, right?
Okay, so probably the best refutation of that is that the Tesla Model Y will be the best-selling car of any kind on Earth this year.
Big statement.
Of any kind, gasoline or otherwise.
Is there another car company that you think is doing a good job with EVs?
I mean, I think the Chinese car companies are extremely competitive. By far, our toughest competition is in China. So,
truth.
I mean, there's a lot of people who out there who think like the top 10 car companies are going to be Tesla, followed by 9 Chinese car companies. I think they might not be wrong. So,
I agree with that, by the way.
China is super good at manufacturing, and the work ethic is incredible. So, you know, like if we consider different leagues of competitiveness at Tesla, we consider the Chinese league to be the most competitive. And by the way, we do very well in China because our China team is the best China.
How worried are you that the unionization effort that just took place I shouldn't say effort, but the new wages and the like at GM and Ford that they're coming for you? And they are coming for you. What is that going to mean to you and your business?
Well, I think it's generally not good to have an adversarial relationship between people on the line, you know, one group at the company and another group. In fact, I mean, I disagree with the idea of unions, but perhaps for a reason that is different than people may expect, which is I just don't like anything which creates kind of a lords and peasants sort of thing. And I think the unions naturally try to create
I agree with that.
negativity in a company and create a sort of lords and peasants situation. There are many people at Tesla who have gone from working on the line to being in senior management. There is no lords and peasants. Everyone eats at the same table. Everyone parks in the same parking lot. You know, at GM, there's a special elevator only for senior executives. We have no such thing at Tesla. You know, and the thing is that I actually know the people on the line because I worked on the line, and I walked the line, and I slept in the factory, and I worked beside them. So I'm no stranger to them. And there are actually many times where I've said, well, can't we just hold a union vote? But apparently a company is not allowed to hold a union vote. So it has to be somehow called for, but the unions can't do it. So I said, well, let's just hold a vote and see what happens. The actual problem is the opposite. It's not that people are trapped at Tesla building cars. The challenge is how do we retain great people to do the hard work of building cars when they have like 6 other opportunities that they can do that are easier. That's the actual difficulty, is that building cars is hard work and there are much easier jobs. And I just want to say that I'm incredibly appreciative of those who build cars, and they know it. You know, so there's I don't know, maybe there will be unionized. If I say, like, if Tesla gets unionized, it will be because we deserve it and we failed in some way. But we certainly try hard to, you know, ensure the prosperity of everyone. We give everyone stock options. We've made many people who were just working the line, who didn't even know what stocks were, we've made them millionaires. So
it's true.
We're going to run out of time. Final couple quick questions.
It's true, 100%.
When do you have the time?
Yeah, they asked him, you know, when he has the time to tweet and all those sorts of things. And he actually checks his phone to see how much he uses X. But the problem is he just got a new phone, so it didn't have an accurate time, which that would have been fun. And then they asked him about autonomous driving, the technology Tesla has, and obviously Tesla, you know, Elon has very good things to say about that, and that it's very close and those sorts of things, which doesn't come as a surprise, as he said that many times. But, you know, in all seriousness, like, I've known so many people, you know, especially in the private stock group over time, that I've seen, like, they worked at Tesla, and their net worth's like $500,000, $1 million, multi-million dollars, and they didn't work at super high up positions. Like, not super high up positions, but they made so much on Tesla stock over the years because of those stock options that, it's funny because I spoke to a lot of them, and this was, you know, years ago, even back in like 2018, 2019, and asking them, like, do you feel like you're fairly paid? Almost all of them would always say they felt underpaid as far as a pure salary. But yet they all got filthy rich for the most part. Like everybody I know at least got filthy rich because Tesla stock went up so much and because there's stock options. So that's where it really comes down to, like, would you rather make a couple extra dollars an hour, or would you rather make a fortune from your stock, right? And it's kind of like, would you rather have the money now or the money later? Would you rather have delayed gratification, or would you rather have the gratification right now? You look at Ford, look at GM stock. Those stocks haven't done anything for like a long time, like 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 years, like the longest time, right? GM's even gone bankrupt in the past, right? Whereas Tesla's out there and obviously put up the results, and look at Tesla's stock return since that company went public. It's astronomically high. You look at Tesla stock over the past 10 years. Look at Ford stock in the past 10 years. Look at GM stock in the past 10 years, right? And you ask, where would you rather have worked? Everybody would have rather worked at Tesla, right? And that's why they have a lot of job opportunities as well, okay? Here's the deal. This is crazy, okay? This is crazy. So Cybertrucks are starting to hit some of these showrooms, okay? Now, first thing is, obviously, there's a lot of hype. I've heard, people are already lining up to take pictures of these Cybertrucks and all these sorts of things, and it's a huge deal. Like, we've never seen anything like this. Other than maybe Model 3. Model 3 was probably pretty close to that. But in terms of excitement, like, people that aren't even going to buy a Cybertruck are going to be going out of their way and driving to Tesla stores to see a Cybertruck. Think about that. And that's going to happen over this next 6 to 12 months. People in the mall are going to be looking inside the Tesla stores just to see if there's a Cybertruck in there. And if there is, they're going to be taking photos and videos and posting all over their social media and sending to their friends, sending to their family member. We're about to go through a cycle like we've never seen in regards to a vehicle in the history of mankind. The closest thing would be Model 3, but even this is a whole different level. I mean, there'll be no way to quantify it, but the amount of people that are going to be sharing photos and videos and going out of their way to see these Cybertrucks in person, it's going to be like nothing we've ever seen in history, okay? But, Cybertrucks are starting to hit some of these showrooms, and now people are taking pictures of them, and they're trying to say, oh, there's some blemishes here on the truck, or it's not right, or it's not, this is a problem, or things like that, and they're putting a lot of scrutiny on it. And keep in mind, I think there's going to continue to be scrutiny, and the reason being is this Cybertruck's a huge competitive threat, and I'll show you some images in just in a moment of problems with the Cybertruck, which is like this whole situation, okay? But keep in mind, there's a lot of entities that don't want the Cybertruck to succeed, right? I mean, if you think about this is a serious competitive threat to the Fords, to the GMs, right? That those business models have made considerable amounts of money on pickup trucks. Also, you turn on a dang football game, turn on your TV, watch the news, watch whatever. What do you see? Massive amounts of commercials for pickup trucks. What are you not going to see when you watch the football game, when you watch the news on TV? You're not going to see Cybertruck commercials. So a lot of people are going to be very incentivized to post negative stuff about Cybertruck. And if they see any sort of blemish, problem, panel gap, anything like that in regards to Cybertruck, they're going to be trying to post it anywhere because you're not going to make any money off Tesla. They don't advertise. They don't advertise on traditional media. So if anything, traditional media wants Cybertruck to not be as successful, so people buy the other company's products, so those companies continue to spend and spend and spend on traditional media, okay? And obviously those companies that are the ones that make trucks are very incentivized to, have these things be known, okay? So this is a little something to keep in mind in regards to this whole battle, okay? Now, here's some pictures, and you tell me, is this really problems? So this is a picture here. I don't know. I guess some people were mad that there's this blemish right here. And there's this it looks like almost like a scratch type mark right here and right here. And they're saying, ooh, boy. Okay, now these are super zoomed in photos, by the way, super zoomed in photos. So this is the big problems, okay? They're looking right here and they're saying, well, maybe this panel gap's bigger at the top than the bottom. And there's all these sorts of things that people are going wild about and saying, this is... Dude. 99% of people don't know what the flip they're even looking at. I don't even, I'm looking at some of these different photos people have been posting about the Cybertrucks on just different social medias or wherever. And, if it is anything that's a problem, right? Which, keep in mind, that stuff's going to be 2% of what will actually be posted. The other 98% is just going to be wow and positive stuff, right? But the 2%, I'm looking and I'm like, how desperate are folks to try to find problems in these Cybertrucks, these early production trucks? Like, I'm looking at it, I'm just laughing. I'm like, what are we talking about? Is this serious? Like, are people really serious about this? About this Cybertruck problems? Like, what are we talking about, man? And so, me as a Tesla shareholder, I'm just looking at it like, no, and no, okay? If they're going to make a big deal about this, no. And by the way, Tesla's never been known as the best fit and finish car. Bottom line with that, right? They've never been the one that's known with the best panel gaps and all that BS that other people think is so important. Dude, give me one of those Cybertrucks that's in the showrooms right now. I'll buy it right now. Literally right now. I'll wire the money. Cash. Like, we got it. We'll do it right now. Ask anybody that really wants one of those Cybertrucks, dude, they will give me it. Like, what the heck are we talking about? like it's crazy. But this is what they're going to run with. This is a narrative, and they're going to try to point out anything that's wrong and any scratch and anything. And if this little panel gap here is a little bit different than this one, they're going to try to point that out. In the end, like, 1% of people care about that. The other 99% don't care. Like, we don't even know what we're looking at. Like, what are we talking about here, okay? So, anyways, that's that. But yeah, that's the Tesla news, folks. Like, come on, man. Like, come on. Like, this is what people are making a big deal about? Seriously? Like, my gosh. We'll see, okay? My prediction is Cybertruck's going to sell a ridiculous amount of units. It's going to be a serious competitive threat to anybody that makes a pickup truck around the world, and certainly the United States of America. And they better be scared. And they are. That's why they'll try to find anything negative in regards to these trucks. Believe me on that. And it's not going to end in the showroom. They're going to try to test them out, make them look bad. They're going to try a lot of tricks. Trust me on that. It's just a matter of time. I just want to quickly share my thoughts on the Tesla event and how Elon Musk did at that event and the Tesla team. I thought they did tremendous. I thought the only complaint I have is in terms of trying to get to the event. It was a little confusing for a lot of folks out there. Outside of that, I thought they did a heck of a job. I was super impressed with the beginning. They had almost what was seen as like a commercial type thing to start the show off, and I thought that was amazing, man. Like, that was like about a 60-second and 90-second deal. I thought that was phenomenal. Like, they showed it in so many different environments. I thought it was great. There's some very clear messaging I think they got across during that I thought was pretty powerful. One is it's the fastest truck in the world. 2, it's the most powerful truck in the world. 3, it's the toughest truck in the world. It can out-tow an F-350. It can beat a 911, a Porsche 911 on a quarter mile while pulling a Porsche 911. Like, that was crazy, right? And someone can unload a Tommy into the door and you'd still be alive. Like, that's wild in itself. So I thought they did a great job of showing power and showing toughness, which is a lot of what people look for in a truck overall, power and toughness, right? Now, in terms of the new price points and things like that, I think they're right where they should be. The rear-wheel drive, which isn't coming until 2025, is $60,000. This is before tax credits, this is before gas savings, all those sorts of things, okay? This is just straight up. $60,000, I think that's going to do very well. I think in the short term, this is going to be the one that tears it up for the company. All-wheel drive, $79K. Once again, this is before tax credits. It's before everything. You're getting 340 miles of range. You're getting 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds. You're getting 600 horsepower on that, 11,000 pound towing capacity. Obviously, they got the Cyber Beast as well. That one's priced right around 100K. And once again, that's before any credits or anything like that, right? 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds, which is insane. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, I remember my, back in the day, I used to have the Model 3 Performance Edition. That was 3.2 seconds, and that seemed insane. I mean, you could keep up with the Plaid. You know, the Plaid's 1.99. Like, you could hang with the Plaid. Like, that's wild to think, right? 845 horsepower. That's obviously just a whole different beast. I think this is going to be the one that does very well. Like, if Tesla called me and said, hey, we got a Cybertruck for you, it's this one or this one, I would grab this one. I'm like, that's plenty sufficient for me, and I'd actually rather have a little extra range. You know, if this is going to get put in the category of like a Raptor, and if you look at Raptor pricing, I mean, you know, if I was to go to if I want to go buy a Raptor right now, and look at the price point on this baby, it was like 90 something thousand they want for this baby, 93,000. yeah, no disrespect to a Raptor, but I'd much rather have a Cybertruck than a Raptor. And that's the category that's getting put into. So I think Tesla is right where they should be, price point wise. So very impressed with the event. The only bad thing I have to say is getting to the event I thought was difficult at times because they ran it through X and it had some extra confusion. But when they actually had the event, I thought it was concise. It seemed like it was around the 30-minute event. The branding was on point. I thought they did a great job. And I thought Elon Musk was probably the smoothest I've ever seen him for an event. Sometimes he can come across as a little awkward when doing these events. I thought he came across as very smooth. He had some jokes. I was actually really impressed. I thought he knocked out of the ballpark, and I was very impressed. So overall, that's my thoughts on the kind of the Cybertruck event. Like I said, got a big video coming for you guys here in a bit. In a few hours, that will cover a ton of stocks, a ton of things going on in the market. I just want to cover my quick thoughts on Cybertruck. Much love as always. Appreciate you being here. Thank you for being subscribed, folks. Talk to you a little later.